experts say is a menace which requires collective and deliberate efforts to tackle. Among those contributing to the fight against drug abuse is Senator Babangida Ussaini from Jigawa State, who recently raised a matter of urgent public importance at plenary, leading to the Senate urging the federal government to declare a state of emergency on drug abuse.
To shed more light on the reasons behind raising the motion. But speaking specifically to the question, the causes of drug abuse are quite many. Some are social, others are failure of family issues, and then some can be seen in the context of the economic situation. There is a popular cliche normally that they say idle man is the devil's workshop. The young men and women who are roaming the streets without job, especially the weak ones, will always find an escape route, and taking drugs will gives them that opportunity. It's a multidimensional problem that requires a multidimensional approach.
We now move to the Red Chamber for the debate on the matter.
I stand to move the motion for consideration to address the menace of drug abuse in Nigeria. The Senate is invited to note that Nigeria is currently facing a rise in drug abuse, which has reached an unprecedented level, transforming from a mere transit route in the 90s into a country filled with drug abusers and drug traffickers all over its land space. While a population of 30 to 35 million Nigerians spends approximately $15,000 and $30,000 annually on psychotropic drugs and alcoholic beverages, respectively. The Senate is also to note that according to a report by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime and the European Union on Drug Use in Nigeria, about 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64 are drug abusers. The Senate is to be aware that the report stated that 10.6 million addicts were cannabis users, 4.6 addicts used pharmaceutical opioids, and 238,000 drug abusers used amphetamines. The Senate is also to be aware that the report further revealed that the prevalence of drug use per geopolitical zone as far back as 2017 shows that the Northwest Zone, where I come from, accounted for 12%, which is around 3 million drug abusers. Northeast Zone, 13.6%, which is about 2,090,000. North Central Zone, 10%, which is 1.5 million. Southwest Zone, 22.4%, which is 4,382,000. While the South-South Zone accounts for 16.6%, which is around 2,124,000 of this category of Nigerians. And the Southeast Zone accounts for 13.8%, which is 1,550,000 drug abusers. The Senate regrets that the main drugs abused in Nigeria are mood-altering drugs or psychoactive drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, dependency drugs, as well as prescription drugs, whose side effects include addiction, trauma, mental illness, and oftentimes resulting in ill health, violence, and involvement in criminal activities. The Senate is disturbed that a significant number of deaths from accidents and violent crimes have been traced to the activities of persons under the influence of drugs, especially the discovery of more dangerous substances called kurkura in the north, while in the south, we have what we call the mili. The Senate is also disturbed. The Senate is worried that the prevalence of drug abuse in Nigeria is a public health challenge which seems to be on the rise, on the increase, despite intervention by international, regional, federal, and state bodies through laws, policies, and technical inputs. It is also worrisome that the war against drug abuse carried out by the NDLA, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, and other relevant institutions of both state and federal government is not providing the required results. Hence, the need to include special drug education as a compulsory subject in the Nigerian basic education. It is also alarming that the consequences of drug abuse will continue to endanger our national development, public safety, and family system if urgent action is not taken to strengthen existing legal, policy, and institutional frameworks to face the challenges with all sense of responsibility. The prayers are: one, the Senate is invited to mandate the Committee on Drugs and Narcotics to engage the NDLEA and NAFDAC to provide updated statistical data on drug abuse in Nigeria. Two, direct the Nigerian Education Research and Development Council to review the Nigerian curriculum for basic and secondary education to include special drug education as a compulsory subject in such schools. Number three, direct the National Universities Commission to make the inclusion of special drug education as a compulsory course in the General Studies program, while the National Orientation Agency and the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria should increase the rate of public campaign against drug abuse in Nigeria. Number four, direct the NDLEA to strengthen regional cooperation with sister drug enforcement agencies, especially those contiguous to Nigeria, namely Republic of Niger, Benin, Chad, and Cameroon, to stem the inflow of illicit drugs into the country. Number five, direct the NDLEA to deepen their engagement and strengthen interagency collaboration with sister security agencies, namely Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, the police, NAFDAC, immigration, and the military, which will foster synergy and effective operational relationship. Number six, commend the NDLEA under the able leadership of General Mohammed Buba Marwa for the renewed vigor and unprecedented successes recorded over the years under his watch. Number seven, direct the Federal Minister of Health to immediately and without much ado establish drug rehabilitation centers in all tertiary medical centers across the country. I so move, sir.
The productivity of our youth is greatly affected, with all the attendant and concomitant effect of retarding our economic growth and sustainability.
It's a huge, huge element that is causing destruction, unprecedented destruction to the lives of our people. Most of our youth now, so many of them, I won't say most, so many of them are into drug abuse. And when you have a country, in the first place, the youth are our future. The future of every country lies on its youth. And now when you have something that is destroying your youth, it shows that your future is in jeopardy.
And I believe that it is necessary at this time to put hard drug into our curriculum so that the young children that will grow will be able to know the side effects of this thing.
We seem to be hammering on hard drugs, hard drugs. A lot of this younger generation, they get these drugs from the pharmaceutical shops, which is a place where we go to get medical drugs for ourselves.
And it has destroyed many society. It is hurting the economy of many society. Even countries like America, countries like UK, youths do certain things under the influence of drugs. And as he has rightly said, that unfortunately, the words of most of our elites are also affected. Fortunately, we have a leadership of NDLE that is very, very determined.
The President of the Federal Republic has to be urged to declare an emergency on this and to lead the national response to it. In every country where this has happened, and we are not alone, the Americans dealt with the opioid crisis. Anywhere you have this issue, the executive must take the lead.
Thank you for this motion. There is no doubt that almost every crime in the country today is related to one drug or the other. Even those who they say they are high. The worst one is even the one they do in the open in nightclubs. I don't know whether they call it kisha. Is it shisha? And some will be smoking it and they're passing it around, jotting it up and down. No, it's Babangida that told me. So it's a big problem in the society. So it's good that you brought this up. And I've also heard of the one that are not even drugs. You have soakaways in your houses. So once in a while, check to be sure that there's no hole in the soakaway. Because I understand that some children will make hole in the soakaway before they step out for nightclub. They'll go put their nose in the soakaway and inhale the soakaway. From there, the acid will enter into their brain, and they are already high before leaving the house. So a lot has to be done by families if we have to bring this situation under control. And I think it's what Senator Dixon said, that we have reached a point of national emergency. We should convoke a national discourse on narcotics. And then at the end of it, we should come up to this chamber as legislators to formulate policies and possible legislations that can cope this situation and bring sanity to the society. So thank you, gentlemen. Let's go into the prayers. Prayer 1, mandate the Committee on Drugs and Narcotics to engage the NTA and NAFDAC to provide updated statistical data on drug abuse in Nigeria. We should urge the federal government to declare a state of emergency on drug abuse in the country.
If we are talking of emergency, Mr. President, sir, distinguished colleagues, it must be an emergency. Families have been broken. The future of our children is being taken away from us. So, Mr. President, sir, distinguished colleagues, if it is the view that we are treating this as an emergency and we are declaring it as an emergency, I have no problem. We can all take the prayers during the national emergency and the summit that distinguished Seraki Dixon is advancing.
We urge our committees on narcotics and NDLA to work with relevant government agencies to declare a state of emergency on narcotics abuse in the country. The second will be that we convoke an emergency retreat or summit to discuss holistically the way forward on how we can cope this in order not to spoil the future of this country. The committees on NDLA, NAFDAC, should work with relevant agencies of the federal government to immediately convoke a national summit to discuss the state of narcotics abuse and the future of Nigeria. This has already been seconded. Those who are in support of these two prayers say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Vibrant debates and concrete resolutions, I must say. To further drive the message on drug abuse, Senator Babangida Ussaini facilitated the production of a short documentary on the situation in Nigeria. Let's take a look.
Nigeria is home to a thriving young population, but is faced with a growing epidemic that threatens her future, the menace of drug abuse. Millions of youths, particularly in the most populated cities of Lagos and Kano, have fallen victim to drug abuse and addiction.
According to UNODC report, in 2018, there are 3 million people with substance use disorder. Only in northern Nigeria, more than 1/3 of the SUDs in the 7 states of the Northwest are in Kano.
Similarly, the 2018 National Drug Use Survey estimated about 89,000 users of methamphetamine, commonly referred to as Nkurumiri, in eastern Nigeria, with 75% of them residing in this region. Between 2018 and 2021, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, recorded approximately 14.3 million Nigerians between the ages of 15 and 64 involved in drug use. The dangers of drug abuse have become alarmingly prevalent among individuals in schools, workplaces, social gatherings.
Brother.
Although rehabilitation efforts have been ongoing through public-private partnerships by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) and concerned non-governmental organizations, many of these people in recovery frequently relapse within a few months, affirming that rehabilitation alone does not provide a lasting solution to drug abuse.
You know, most of the mental health professionals are just addressing the symptoms. They don't really address the core issue. We base our model using what we call triple H. Triple H is the head, the heart, and the hand. The head, we take away the toxic in their head through pharmacotherapy. Then the heart, we make sure that we purify the heart. We also model them to behave well. We format their behavior. We change their paradigm and their lifestyle through psychological warfare. Then the hand, we use it to teach them menial job that they can do.
The fight against drug abuse can only be won through collective effort. It calls for transformative policy changes, strengthened partnerships, and increased sensitization on drug use and prevention. Through collaboration, a drug-free future where every Nigerian youth can thrive and become productive members of society can be attained.
No doubt, combating drug abuse is a huge task, but as long as we are positive and committed, our efforts will pay off. Here's a piece of advice from the advocate of the fight against drug abuse.
20, 30 years ago, Nigeria was just a transit point for the movement of these illicit drugs from South America to Europe and to the Far East. Today, we are not only, a consuming nation, we are also even a producing nation. So the evolution and the speed at which these things happen are quite alarming. So therefore, if we really want to be proactive about it all, we need to have a faster way of enhancing a legislative response to deal with the problem, as it were. So for me, it's not about sentencing and punishment. No, it's about prevention. What legislation do you have in place that will deal with the issue of prevention so that in the first place, we don't even have the issue, we don't even have to worry about the issue of punishment. I'm more interested, I'm not bothered about the small boys and girls who smoke and who take these drugs on the street. I'm more interested in the people who produce or who import them. Those are the supply chain that we need to block. And the legislation in that regard will be to deal with the issues of importation and issue of retail. The big guys who are the big masquerades, as it were, who stay behind the street, import them, and then throw them out to this, are those that our legislation should look at. And I believe if we have done the emergency summit, this kind of recommendations will come up, and I believe the National Assembly will proactively deal with it in terms of having relevant laws and regulations that will deal with the matter. So it is not about the punishment, as it were, but it's about ensuring that we have a timeous response in dealing with the matter as it evolves over time. Let me just say that our approach has always been reductionism. We simply reduce the problem and just see it from one particular dimension. It is not. If you have to prescribe a particular way of handling the problem, I mentioned the institutional issues. We need to strengthen the institutions that are legally responsible for management of this kind of problem. You also have to look at the family issues. You have to look at the economy, create economic opportunities for these young men and women that are roaming the street. At the same time, you also have to embark on massive awareness and campaign, bringing to the fore the issue of the dangers of drug abuse and substance abuse. I'm sorry to say that marijuana for me is the least of the problem we are contending with. If you know the dangerous drug that our youth take these days, you will probably not bother yourself about marijuana. Cocaine, heroin, in fact, compound of many chemicals our youth are taking that have this deleterious effect on their health. And that's why you have increase in the number of mental health issues, and also the challenges in terms of renal problems, kidney, liver, name it, because these are harmful to the internal organs of the takers. But because they don't seem to know, they don't seem to understand the implication, and we're not doing much in terms of giving adequate and timely information to the parents and to community leaders, we don't seem to be able to address the problem. Our churches, our mosques, social gatherings and social events. And for me, I still believe the traditional institutions should be brought into the picture and be empowered to be identifying the user. They are there on the street. We know them. They are our children. We know them. So for me, it is about a multidimensional approach, dealing with the issue and handling the issue. It will interest you to know that most of the issues of violent crime we're having are all traced to the substance abuse. Most of the people you apprehend after they act, they will simply look at you and tell you that, oh, I didn't know I did it. It must have been somebody. We need to have this synergy, institutions, traditional institutions, family, educational institutions, so that we can have a holistic approach to deal with the problem. The NDLA has offices in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. That's the understanding I have. But you see, where they are handicapped in terms of equipment, in terms of vehicle, in terms of the remuneration package of the officers themselves, they are poorly paid, poorly kitted, and you expect them to deal with a multi-billion-dollar, industry that perhaps they are ill-equipped to deal with. And I believe the numbers are also quite insignificant. You hardly find more than 20, 30 officers in the local government. So it is not even about the institution NDLA itself. You look at Ministry of Health, how many drug rehabilitation centers do we have in our medical institutions? Very few and far in between. And you are dealing with issues of rehabilitation and reintegration into the society. Reintegration into the society deals with the issue of, psychologists, and also psychiatrists, management as well as reintegration. So a lot of issues are taken for granted, and I believe those are the weaknesses in the system in dealing with the issue of drug abuse. But having said that, I'm happy to note some states are beginning to embark on self-help measures, creating awareness. Katsina State had just had a summit recently. I'm also packaging a summit for the northern region. So if we have those kind of understanding, like a mass movement, we can be able to have significant milestone covered in terms of dealing with the issue of drug in Nigeria.
For the fight against drug abuse to have desired impact, we must all make our contributions.
Parents need to be very serious about their children, about their words. You need to be careful and to keep an eye on the friends your children keep. Secondly, you need to have a more than passing interest in what happens in the school of your child. Regardless of how busy you are, regardless of the difficulties of the time, you must make time to go to your child's school, follow up, check his record, check his performance in school, and ask questions. Where you see things going wrong, ask questions. Take time, check through the bedroom of your children to see what they are keeping under the mattress or under the pillow or in the wardrobe. Those are the areas that you can pay attention, and you will definitely, if there is something wrong, it is from those kind of checks you can be able to. Parents have to take their responsibility of parenting very serious. Secondly, on the part of the government, I expect to see more proactive measures from the NDLA, from the Ministry of Health, from the relevant security agencies, because like I said, it's a multidimensional approach. It's not an NDLA problem alone. Dealing with the issue of rehabilitation, reintegration into the society will probably involve the Ministry of Health because it's a tertiary medical care problem. Dealing with the issue of awareness and campaigns and advocacy, National Orientation Agency and Federal Ministry of Information can deal with that. At the same time, individuals can form advocacy groups into schools to educate our children and to see what is happening. I was shocked when I read a report, a primary school kid of about 9-10 years was abusing drugs. These are the issues because it has cascaded down to the lower levels of the society. And unfortunately, we don't seem to keep track and to see what our children are doing. And I think those are, in the meantime, my recommendations. But overall, we all have to take this drug fight very serious and see.
That's the size of our package. I'm Lami Ali. Thank you for watching.